program is brought to you by comrades like you. Thank you. Please support this project on Patreon or visit my bookshop. Link in the description. Are revolutions popular? Hello comrades, welcome back to Red Scare TV. I am of course your host, Red Scare. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about revolution, not in total. That's probably more so a book topic I'd probably have to cover in the future, or a full-length video essay. Irregardless, I want to talk to you some things about revolution. Primarily, is revolution a popular action? And if you look at the history of revolutions, I would say no. Revolutions aren't always that popular. Take, for example, the Bolshevik Revolution. In the Bolshevik Revolution, there was major resistance against the Bolsheviks from, the Greens, the Whites, the Blacks, and all over. In fact, if you look at the territories that the Bolsheviks actually held, they weren't even the strongest force. The only thing that let them to lead and win the revolution and the Civil War was, unlike the other groups such as the Whites, they had a very coherent narrative of what they wanted. The whole peace, bread, and land narrative, whereas the Whites couldn't even, form a coherent narrative of what they wanted. In fact, this is also true in the American Revolution, which wasn't very popular. In fact, there were more loyalists than there were so-called patriots in the American Revolution. In fact, this is one reason when during revolution, authoritarian means are necessary to, I guess you could say, bring it forth and secure the revolution. There's the word I'm looking for, secure the revolution. Because in the end, many people want to cling on to the old social order. They want to stay where they are, even if it's in a terrible place, because it's what they know and what they're conditioned to. In fact, going back to the American Revolution, we can see that there was a lot of pushback even after the British had left. Example, if you can take a look at Wikipedia and how many American insurrections there were. In fact, if you're American, you probably learned about this in your 5th grade elementary school or middle school or whatever that you were in. I was personally in middle school. And that is the Whiskey Rebellion, in which colonists rose up against a whiskey tax, which at the time, that was a very popular commodity. Also, not to mention that various other insurrections against the newly established colonial government, or not colonial government, but the newly established United States government, formerly the United Colonies government, had come about and tried to destabilize the current situation there. In fact, with one instance, George Washington, who was in retirement, had to come out and lead a battle against one insurrection. Now granted, you might be saying, well, that's the American Revolution, that has nothing to do with the workers, but granted, it does provide us Marxists some idea of what revolution is going to be like. For example, while yes, the American Revolution was a bourgeois revolution, it was, European aristocrats coming over and becoming the bourgeoisie. It was their revolution. It's still a good lesson in the change in social orders and how revolution is authoritarian. In fact, revolution doesn't just begin when you have seized the country. It begins and continues thereafter, and is not always popular. This baseless, hollow, populist myth that the revolution is going to include the masses and everyone's going to like it is false. Because first off, we have to define who are the masses. And like Mao says, we must define the masses. For the masses in China, it was the Chinese national bourgeoisie, the petty bourgeoisie, the workers, the peasants, etc. But for us in America, that's going to be different. Who are the masses to us? In fact, if you want to get statistical about it, which I don't fully trust the statistics because of how the United States classifies working class in a very rigid income bracket. But if you want to go by that, then I would say that the American working class makes up about 35% of the population, to which that is not a popular revolution if you're only 35% of the country. Populist revolution is a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. And it's never going to be clean. A revolution can't be fought with white dinner gloves, like Mao Zedong said. All in all, popular revolution will never happen. It's going to be authoritarian. It has to be the new order cementing its control of the old order, but not just through rigid totalitarian means, but by actually listening to the people, not just going out and winning military victories and crushing your opposition. Like Sun Tzu said when he wrote in the Art of War, the best battles that you have won are the ones that you did not have to even fight. And basically how I interpret that is one of the ways we're going to win is through nonviolence when possible. This fetishization of violence, which I talked about in an earlier video, it's not good for us. We also have to win our battles without fighting, because then that's less energy that we have to exert, and all in all, it's a better victory because no one gets hurt and we gain more from it. War is not won from losses, it's won from gains, and we are in a class war right now. So to recap, the revolution is authoritarian because we are cementing a new order. Populist revolution can never happen. Most populations are going to resist against the revolution. This is one of the reasons that Mao took care of the people he came across, giving them back property, you don't steal, all that. You know that during the Chinese Revolution. Lastly, we need to figure out what battles we don't really have to physically fight, which ones we can win without, being violent. My name is Red Scare TV, and as always, Red Salute, comrades.
Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and to hit that bell button. Also, don't forget to check out my bookstore and my Patreon in the description. Thank you for watching. See you next time.